it's important for people to understand. I want to be able to sing out our gospel songs. I want us to be able to show that pride. Like, I was in tears last year when we were playing Bob Marley, and I could see the people on the other side of the fence waving their flags and winding up themselves and stuff. And I was just like, yes,
Nice.
that is what it was all about. That's what it was all about.
Yeah, everything that I'm sure you went through trying to figure out how to navigate the first,
and
yeah,
then,
the
then that
ups and downs.
damn generator being silly the moments before that. But I was just like, you know what? It was all worth it just to see that.
So I'm here today with Johanna, band leader of Freedom Mass Band, one of the newer bands here in Toronto Carnival. So can you tell me a little bit about Freedom?
So Freedom Mass Band is the first Jamaican mass band in the Toronto Caribbean Carnival. Freedom Mass Band is located in Mississauga, but did start in Brampton, and we still do a lot of our big mass production out in Brampton. I am a true blue Bramptonite, I guess Brampton resident. And I grew up between Brampton and Mississauga, so I'm a Peel Region girl. Freedom Mass Band's theme for 2023 is Carnival is Women. We have 10 section leaders, and all of our section leaders are female.
Nice. So one of the things that you're saying is that you guys are the first Jamaican mass band. From what I know, I believe like in the early days of, what was then Caravana, there was like a Jamaican band leader. But when you say you're the first Jamaican mass band, like what do you mean exactly by that? Is it like we're not going to hear soca on the road, or what's the experience like?
And I wanted to address that part there as well about before. So back in the Caravana days, we don't own the title to that name, and so we can't say Caravana. So when you think about when the FMC took over and moved forward, there wasn't any Jamaican representation at that time. It was all just what it was until Freedom came along. And so with the road, there is soca. We do play soca. I love soca. I probably know more soca than most Trinidadians. That's so bad. But yeah, I was raised up with soca in my household. But we are Jamaican, so we represent the Jamaican diaspora very, very strongly. So we play all kinds of reggae music, ska, dance hall, conscious reggae. So we're singing. We're gonna do some two-step on the road. We're gonna do some ska on the road as well. We also play gospel. A lot of Bob Marley. And then with our costumes, we do try to keep a component of Jamaica in it. And then of course for this year on the road, we have Conscience, the international dancehall artist.
Nice. Oh, that's so cool. How were you guys able to get him on the road with you?
So what I did was I pitched to him Freedom. I told him who I was, what I was doing for the culture in Carnival in Toronto. He liked it, and he was very glad to accept our offer to join us.
Nice. Okay, so you guys are playing dance hall, gospel. So it's kind of like an experience that I feel like it sounds like you're catering to the Jamaicans here in the city?
So I feel like, yes, we are. I've played mass for many too many decades. And when I would try to get people to come with me, especially in the last 15, 20 years, nobody would come. And they're like, oh, there's no place for us there. It's always soca music. It's the same 15, 20 songs over and over and over all day. Don't you see they got rid of the Jamaicans? The Jamaican float is gone. They fought us out and whatever. So really it was just to say, okay, we're not fought out. We are a part of this. You can come and you can feel comfortable, because unless you are really abreast into soca, like if you love it and it's in your core like that, you can get tired of listening to the same 10, like sometimes the parade ruined songs for me that I loved up until that day.
Yeah, sometimes it's very much a recycling of the same tunes.
Yeah.
And one thing for me, it's like, yo, all the old songs still sound good.
Oh
2005 soca, like all those songs still sound good.
Trust me.
And when you hear it on the road, it's so exciting.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I haven't heard this song in so long.
But they don't do it. But they don't play it. And then it's like DJ switch, and you guys just play back the same songs over again. And we're like, what wagwan?
Well, I think one of the things that sometimes the DJs think is that people only want to hear the new current hype music, and that's all that we want to hear. But at the end of the day, like all of us know about this thing, and we want and even if somebody maybe just hears an old song for the first time on the road, they might Shazam it or go back and try to figure out what was that song I heard on the road. I never heard that before. So for me, the one thing that I used to feel a little bit upset about on the road is that it was very much Trini soca in some, and I was like, yo, as a Grenadian on my mom's side, Bajan on my dad's side, like we need to hear a mix.
Yes.
We need to hear a mix. I only want to hear Grenada and Vinci soca on the road, like power soca. That's it. I don't want to hear no chutney. I don't want to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But then again, there are some people who do want to hear those things, right? So it's like, how can we cater to
everybody
and their needs?
Yes.
So I don't know if that would be like different trucks in like bigger bands, or I don't know how many trucks, smaller bands. Do you guys have one truck or is it multiple?
So
trucks?
I mean, I have one that powers music.
Yeah.
And then we have like a vehicle that we give drinks and stuff out of. But like we don't have masqueraders to support having 2 or 3 big music trucks.
Yeah. How many masqueraders do you guys have this year compared to last year?
We've tripled what we had from last year.
Nice. Yeah. So
already, and we're not done yet.
Nice. And then so in terms of marketing, like what do you think helped to fuel that growth?
I think what happened was the ones we had last year, we treated them good and they came back with their friends. A couple of them became section leaders. Nice. Yeah, well, look at that, right? So a couple of them became section leaders. I also do believe that there was a disbelief. Like when I look at the support that I got last year, which was almost minimal, like very little. And the people who did support me, I'm so grateful to them. Like they saw the behind the scenes stuff, the support that I got that wasn't there. But then it was like when I crossed the road, when I was interviewed on the road, when I was on the stage and the generator conked down and stuff, and people were at home watching like, yo, that girl has heart. Like she did it. You know, when I did King and Queen, she's like, that girl showed up with the smallest costume and she didn't give a shit and she put on a show. You know, to like, that girl has heart. So then what happened was this year, it was just like people just came left, right, and center. So like, yo, we're going to do this. We're going to donate this. We're going to sponsor you. We're going to help you with this. We're going to help you with that and whatever. So I found that even with that, it was just like showing up the first time, which was my only goal last year. I didn't care so much about the numbers of the masqueraders because I can't do everything and I'm by myself. I have my family members and stuff, but I have a huge trust issue. A lot of people don't understand the culture. I come from a culture perspective. People see money, right? And they don't understand that that's not how money works, right? And so if I have to keep having those conversations, I just stop having those conversations. And if I see that that's your goal, then I just part ways. We just part ways respectfully, and I work with who gets it. And more and more people are now understanding. So they're coming on and they're saying like, yeah, they want the representation and they want us to show up. And I'm not interested in being the biggest and the baddest. If that's going to happen, it'll come on naturally. It's not my intention. My intention is to keep showing up for the Jamaicans and creating the inclusivity, making them feel like, okay, yeah, this is us too. When I was growing up, we had that. My kids never.
Isn't that
fui Ting too. Like, yeah, you know how it is, right? Yeah. But when I had it, I grew up and that was a thing. We did go down to the parade and we went to see that. And my kids never had that. My kids never had it until last year. Right. And then finally now they're excited. You could hear the little minions, them planning and doing their little thing. My daughter is almost 17. She won't wear a costume. She's very conservative. But she's like, oh yeah, mommy, I got a system for hanging out the water. And they're like, she's already ready. Right. Like, you know, and she manages my kiddies band. And she's like, oh mommy, yes. And this, like, she's got her little thing. And she never had that until last year.
So you're creating space not only for, you know, your family, but also for like the larger Jamaican, you know, population here in the city. And then you're getting support from, you know, artists back home. They're saying, yo, we love what you're doing. I want to support you.
Even from the Consulate General of Jamaica.
Wow.
Wrote me a congratulatory letter. And he was just so excited for me. And like I've had like different politicians who have Jamaican diaspora who's just like, yo, you don't understand what you're doing is so big. And I'm like, do you know what? It's very little. It's very small. But, you know, to know that the pride is being like the culture and the pride is being represented in such a big event like the Toronto Caribbean Carnival, it's everything to me. And I love the mass. I could never do this without the mass. I don't want to do it if there's no mass. Right. But again, too, I'm also very miserable in terms of like the mass can't be Trinidadian. So I'm not going to pay a bunch of Trinidadian designers to come in and design my band. Like it isn't going to happen. I'm going to grow my talent right here.
Okay.
Right.
So basically what you're saying is you guys don't purchase designs from designers overseas or in Trinidad. You just focus on helping the ladies here that are in here. Okay.
Everything is done here. The only thing that's going to come out of country is like supplies, feathers and gems, whatever, because they come that's what happens. But at the end of the day, our seamstresses and everything is done here at home. I'm a big believer in supporting our own ecosystem. If we sell out everything, if we give it to out of the country, we end up selling every day more and more. You end up selling your culture. And when you go on Fashion Over, they're now selling wire bras.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody saying something about that on Twitter or something.
When you go type up Carnival and AliExpress, they're selling costumes. Right? So that's all the stuff. Plus, when you go on the blogs and you see how many people in different carnivals are disappointed by the size, not getting what they paid for and whatever. Like, I was a masquerader. I was a masquerader for years. I know what it's like to go to a band, pick up my costume, and it's not ready. It's not there. Or whatever, and how disappointed I was. Or I get it in time, it really doesn't fit. But I do what I need to do to make it fit because I'm tiny. I own my part. It doesn't really fit, so I do what I need to make it fit. And then, and I'm like, I want a little bit more gem. So I fling on a little bit more ting on it. And I go up on the road and, I'm a doing a ting. And so I know what that's like. And honestly, for me, I believe in business with integrity. So I want everyone who comes to Freedom to feel like they're a part of Freedom's family. And I take care of my own.
Nice. I love that. I mean, if I was Jamaican, I'd be playing with Freedom because I feel like, these are my people.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's like the vibe that you're creating. Even JJ, shout out to JJ, who's doing the social media for Toronto Carnival. She was saying, like, when she saw you guys, what you're doing with Freedom, she's like, oh, Jamaican? I'm Jamaican. Like, that, like, I'm going to play with you guys. Like, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the important things, just in terms of bands, is to really know who your market is, right? Like, who are you speaking to?
Right.
Because if you just have like a general costume with feathers, like everybody does that. But who are you talking to? Maybe there's somebody who wants to focus on bigger women, like curvy women, maybe that, and then all the bigger girls would be like, yo, these are my people. Like, these are my girls. Like, this is, I always play with this band or this section leader or whatever, you know what I mean? But when you really have like who it is exactly that you're talking to, it's so much easier to get people on board with your mission. Like from what you're saying is you feel like what you did last year was so small because it was just you, but look at the big impact that you had because you were speaking directly to the Jamaicans here in the diaspora. And then there was that ripple effect of where Jamaicans back home and the Consulate General, and now you have Conscience coming on board. So it's like, even me with this podcast, starting off, I don't know what I'm doing half the time. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. And I'm sure you had instances of that, in your first year. Still now. Just trying to figure it out, right? You're trying to navigate what to do or, how does this work? And then, you know what I mean? So I encourage anyone who wants to start anything. This is just more general. Like, even if you don't know how to do it, just start because you'll figure it out as you go.
Yes.
Like, there's no other way about it. You know what I mean?
So, and you're going to fall and you're going to have bumps and and you also have to know, like, I'm not a person who's about optics. So you can't trick me with images. Okay. You absolutely cannot. So people post, these little snippets and they make it look like everything's so crowded and there's all these people. I said, you can't trick me. For me, I'm starting a new band. I know how the tone I want to set for it and the culture I want for it. So I get the opportunity of starting a certain way this way. And if it, in your mind, oh, you only have 100 masqueraders, oh, you only have you think that's a fail? That's on you. That's not, you don't know what's in my head, right? Like my very first year, okay. Like you started a business, you want to make sales. Great. Right. I didn't end up in a deficit. Right.
Congratulations.
And I know how to manage a business. I did not end up in a deficit. The masqueraders I had an amazing time. Like none of them have said to me, oh, I wasn't happy or whatever, blah, blah, blah. They all had a good time. They came back. They brought their friends. A couple of them became section leaders. And that for me was my goal. Get through the gate. I want you to execute. Like I remember when the generator broke down right at staging. Like for 6 hours, this thing was playing. And then as we cross the stage, it doesn't want to work. Yeah, it doesn't. It just conks out. And I'm just like, oh, like I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm laughing in my brain because I'm like, this is Pandora. Like if anything was ever anything that could go wrong today, it just happened. So I'm like God, you see how you keep trying me? You keep poking at me because you're just showing me. I was like, okay, whatever. So they got the generator guy on the phone. He told us what to do. We figured it out, crossed the stage, and then it never conked out the whole rest of the way.
That's
the
weird. Yo,
many hours.
in my Caribbean mind, there's only one thing I would be thinking that's going on there. I'm like, what do you mean as soon as I go to cross the stage,
Obviously not true.
I'm like, how's it as soon as I go to cross the stage, it doesn't
yeah.
work, and then after that, it's perfectly fine after.
Yeah, but you see, where evil is, God is. Right?
Amen.
Right. So when you were trying your bad-minded spiritedness,
Yeah.
God say, you know what? I know my soldiers and I
Yeah.
know my warriors,
Yeah.
and she's gonna be okay. And guess what?
Amen.
I was okay.
Good.
I did it. We did it.
Congratulations.
What did it do? It didn't hurt my sales.
Good.
Right? It didn't hurt my sales when one or two people will make a comment. Oh, I had this recently. Oh, we don't want to be embarrassed with the generator conking out. And I just said, well, we no longer need you here. Yeah. It's like, well, we don't need you here.
Like somebody on your team?
Yeah. It was a DJ. And we just eliminated him. Just like that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You're a human being. You could die between now and then. So in my mind, you, like everyone, the human, anything is possible.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm like, if that's the energy you're coming with, I don't want that here. Because to be honest, things are going to happen. You got to be in a world where you mentally, you got to be prepared. After a pandemic, worse, come on. If you haven't figured it out by now, you never will. So,
yeah, true. Anything can happen. And I guess one of the skills with being a band leader and just a leader in general is like, you have to be able to put out the fires and be able to navigate like, okay, well, how do we solve this problem? And
then understanding that not every problem can be solved.
Yeah.
Or you might not have the answer right now.
Yeah.
You need time to digest it to come up with the answer. Right. So that's for me. I'm over egos and like being a woman in business where it's mostly men and where people expect men to be in charge.
Okay.
And then I'm not a screamy, yelly, want to fight with everybody type of woman. The taking advantage is real. Right. And the overinflating prices, taking advantage, or if I try to do a deal and the sexual innuendos come out of it, I'm just like, yo, bro, can we just like stay focused? I asked you for a price on something. I need to know the details. Give me that. Don't talk about anything else. You know? And so that's my thing as a band leader.
So tell me a little bit more about your theme this year and how you guys were, able to portray that. Are you going to be a part of King and Queen again this year?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Okay, so what was your King and Queen experience like last year? You said you guys had the smallest costume.
So we did juniors. This year we're not doing juniors, but last year we did juniors. And the two kids that did our juniors last year were both my nieces. Nice. Jamaicans, and never did it before. But both performers, they have experience with performing. So they weren't afraid of the crowd. So they really brought personality to their costumes. And again, their costumes were small. They weren't the biggest ones, but they're also not easily intimidated. We don't raise easily intimidated kids. Good. So they just like showed up, right? And they did fantabulous. Like they were great. They had the smiles, they did the performances, and even like our queen, the person who did her backpack didn't do the best job, and so started to bend. But she just, when she couldn't go anymore, she didn't. And I could see, and I just pulled her off. But then she paraded down the stage with it when we reinforced it. She paraded down and she did a good job on the road with it. And those two, like, they were so excited to do it again. And Jasmine, actually won nationals just last week. So she's actually the teen national soloist in Canada.
For
dance.
Oh, okay. I'm like, there's a nationals?
Yeah, for dance. Oh. So for jazz and acro and ballet.
Oh, that's so cool.
Like the one little black kid. Like, well, I mean, there's kids, but she's
course.
like that one black kid that's, how it is, these dance schools, right? And these dance competitions. So she did really, really well, but we were just like, you know what? It was too hard trying to get things negotiated. So we just weren't going to do it this year. But for me now, last year I had this carry. And that same week, I was putting it together. The Monday, the generator company calls and says, "Oh, we don't have enough generators. We have to cancel you." And I'm like, "What?" So generator, they're not those little simple generators. You have to get these big things that power out, like neighborhoods, right? So I had to be calling all over the place, driving here, driving there.
What do you need a big generator like that for?
To power your truck on the road.
For King and Queen, though?
No, for the parade. But he canceled me on Monday. Remember that
Monday?
And then I had King and Queen, and then we had the parade the same week.
Oh, okay.
So I had to run around and find these generators, knowing that they're so in demand, because besides the parade, the grand parade, there's all these other festivals going on using generators, right? So I'm running around, calling all these places, all this stuff, trying to find everybody. Nobody has, because for 2 years they never used. And then they realize now they have faults. They're not working properly. They have to repair. The logistic delays, are not getting parts and stuff. So like I wasn't even going to do king and queen. Like at one point I was just like ready to cry, calling Mishka. I was like, Mishka, like, I don't know if I can do this. And she's like, you'll be fine. I'm like, you know? And so I was all made up, fighting with the stupid backpack. The wind was blowing so hard. And I'm just like, you know what? Started bawling. I'm like, I'm not going. And then I went to my sister's like, go take a shower. They finished it. And then I was driving
the day
of the king and queen. So I'm now driving downtown. And I'm like crying and I'm like, it's not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready. Like, what am I doing? It's not ready. It's not ready. And I'm talking to my sister on the phone and she's like, you'll be fine. And I'm like, it's not ready though. And like, you know, and I'm crying because my glitter's all like smudged now and all this stuff. Yeah. Cause I'm just like, who needs to go somewhere to be embarrassed? Right. And then I get there. And again, not intimidated by these big costumes because I'm like, I'm one of these people who's just like, okay, you guys have years of experience, you know, whatever. Like I'm just coming out. Right. Yeah. And then I don't know what happened over the course of, because even when I was there, I saw these costumes and I seen, you know, people dancing and they did their thing. But I was just like, is this thing going to hold up in this wind? So I was just like, okay, let me strap up. And I went up there and the wind was a little bit before I got on the stage. But I don't know. Again, there's God.
Yes.
As I touched the stage and my music started to play, as Tony Matron dropped that intro.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was my intro to my set as he dropped that intro. And then the crowd just started cheering. I hadn't even made it move yet. And then the barrish dropped it. And I was just like, yo, people started to get up out of their seats. I was like, damn, girl, you've turned out. Like, yeah. People that started to get up out of their seats. I had people in the audience videotaping. We don't have one good video. They wouldn't sit still. I'm just like, okay, my plan for you, I've got tripods. Like, I never thought about that because I figured they would just video. No, there are videos jumping all over the place because they're jumping up and down. They're screaming in the background. Like the crowd, you could hear the crowd in the background. Like people just started to stand up and it was like a Barris Hammond and a Tony Matron mix. And so the Tony Matron part of it was actually like a dancing thing. So the audience got up and started dancing to the lyrics of the song. Yeah. And yeah, it was really good. So then when I came off, I got like rushed by all kinds of people. Like, oh my God, you did great. And I'm like, thanks. I didn't even know half these people, but I was just like, thank you. And a couple of band leaders came over and said like, yo, man, you showed up, man.
That's
Congratulations.
such a nice story about having faith because it's like, sometimes we're going to go do the thing and it gets so scary and so overwhelming, but it's like, yo, I'm already here. Yeah. Sometimes you need word of encouragement from a sister or somebody. And then you go and you do the thing. You're like, hey, I'm still alive and I'm so supported. But you wouldn't know if you let yourself be stopped by the fear. Yes. And I feel like a lot of times people let themselves be stopped by fear, but it's like you have to acknowledge that and still do the thing. Yes. Because on the other side is like, it's just like, it's almost like God's blessing for you still doing the thing even though you're afraid, right? So
and then also understanding that the devil's job is to make you so scared you don't
do it,
right? Right. So he's like, you listen to my voice instead of his, and and you did it, and so here's your reward.
Even for me with doing like the Face of the Festival application, I was friggin' terrified.
I could imagine.
I was like, what do you mean you guys want me to make a video and post on Instagram so everybody has to see that I want to do this thing? Yeah. I was like, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm just gonna do the best job that I could ever do so that I know I left everything on the table. And then when they selected me, and then just all like the awesome cool things that have come out of it, I'm like, could you imagine if I had let myself
not do it
because I was afraid?
Yeah.
Nothing would have changed. Yeah. I wouldn't be doing all these amazing things, getting to speak to people and meet, incredible people like yourself and other band leaders and section leaders and people who are really helping to, push the culture forward in their own special way. Yes. And then that's why I want to start this podcast, because I'm like, we don't really have a space to have conversations about what it is that we're doing. We kind of just do it.
Yes, so we do. And one thing I found with this thing is like, now I keep records because nobody keeps records, right? Yeah. So I find that even when I needed to get a frame built last year, nobody had measurements. Like, I'm like, you guys don't write this down. No pictures, no diagrams, no nothing. No, we just do it. Oh, okay. Like, I'm just like, guys, like the culture is going to die with that generation because the next generation has nothing to digress to, right? Like nothing to refer to, nothing to look back at. So for me now, I got policies. I got this. I was like, okay, it looks like this. This is the logistical plan. So I was like, you're going to do this. You need to book it by this. You got to do this. You got to book it by that. This is the size. This is where you should go. Like I have it all written down because I'm just like, this is what they weren't doing. So I'm going to do. And then, you know, heaven forbid something happens to me, then at least
They
my
have something
kids
to refer to.
can look at it and say, okay, this is what mom was on.
Yeah.
You know? So.
Yeah, because, I mean, we see it happen all the time in culture. Like, one thing that my great-grandmother always says is, like, some people don't want to share their recipes, like, for cooking.
Yes.
And they just let their food and all their nice thing die with them.
Yeah.
But could you imagine if our entire culture just died with the older generation? And again, I feel like, you know, that's why I feel called to have these conversations, is because, like, we need to have a space to have discussions and to have, like, almost like a capsule of, like, hey, this is what was going on at that time. Like, let's have something to refer to, because we're creating history right now.
Yeah.
But we need to keep records of that history. As you're saying.
Yeah. So even like I look at, like, even with, okay, I say I'm the first Jamaican mass band in the Toronto Caribbean Carnival, right? And I'll have one or two people come and shoot at, and I'm like, hey, so you don't pay attention to words clearly, right? And the other thing is, you guys are very angry. What are you angry or negative about? Because it's like, where are your receipts for things? I'm not negative. Remember, I tell everybody all the time, when I used to go, there was a reggae float with the flag and everything.
The big Jamaica flag.
Yeah, the big dirty flag.
And I remember all the Jamaicans be like, yo, we wait for the Jamaica flag. Yo, I don't want to hear no soca.
We never left our house till 12. We have a good proper breakfast. We had a good strong breakfast, because my mom would only give us like a $5 spending money. That time was money.
Yeah.
And, you know, so we have a good proper breakfast. And then we're like, we have a little $5, because we make our money stretch. And then we'll bring a little drink. And then, like, we had water frozen, and we take it out and we go down there.
So you guys would come down with a cooler and all kind of thing?
No, sir. Because we were in the crowd. I was a stormer. Shamefully, I was a stormer. I didn't understand.
You know what's funny? Like, in previous conversations I've had on here is that, you know, the culture, the landscape around it before is that, like, stormers wasn't even a title. Like, it was just kind of part of what you did. Like, there was that last Jamaican band. That's where if you're not in a costume, that's where everybody went. But obviously they don't have that now, and so the
and we didn't. And so then, because also too, I played mass as a kid, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know how that came about. My mom's like, oh, some union at work. So she don't even know the semantics, right? She just knows there was a union at work, and the union must have said something. And they go, the costumes show up, she take us, and that was it, right? As a teenager and a young adult, when I wanted to play, I didn't know where to go. And I still think that we fail at that.
That was a conversation that I was having yesterday in terms of actually getting into play mass. It definitely feels like a if you know, you know kind of thing.
And an elite thing.
Yeah, but not necessarily like an elite thing, just like no one really knows. Like, if you're outside of the culture, you don't know how to get in. And sometimes you might not even feel welcome.
Yes.
But I feel like there needs to be something where people can be able to come in and just register, just maybe all the bands at something, or something where it's just everybody, so people can come and see, oh, I want to do this one, I want to. Right now it's very much like there's like almost the connection for people to get from point A to B is a little bit severed.
It's not straight. It's straight. It's very jagged, and it's cut off, and people don't really understand. And I agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I just look at myself in the past, and that's what it was. 100% that. And then, like, I like you see, my roots are out west in Mississauga and Brampton. The reason for that was I used to hate going to Scarborough to look at costumes. I used to hate going to Scarborough to build masks. Like, I used to hate all of that. Do you know what kind of a torture the 401 is? Like, it was brutal. When I was going anywhere, I'm going like at 7 a.m. to beat the traffic. 6:30 actually. 7 is not the time. 6:30 in the morning, and I'm leaving out after 10, just so that my ride wasn't an hour and a half. You know, so it's 40, 50 minutes. That's not, for me, that's like, I can't, like, at almost 50, I'm not even interested. I am not interested in none of it now. I'm just like, I'm over here. A lot of our masqueraders are like, yeah, we're picking up. Like, they're so happy to be on this side.
Yeah, because we don't have any representation on the west side, at all.
No, and they want it so bad.
Yeah.
They want it so bad. Like, Mississauga wants it, Brampton wants it. Yeah.
We do,
so
because
bad.
It's true. Trying to cross the 401 is traumatic, especially on a Saturday afternoon. I did that a couple weeks ago. I keep talking about this because it was genuinely traumatic. I'm like, why did it take me 45 minutes to get from Square One to Yorkdale? That should never be happening.
No.
And why are we sitting down in one lane of traffic? This is disgusting. Like, it's a Saturday.
In 2023.
Like,
yeah, on a highway that's not new. You could understand if it was new, people didn't know. But we've had these highways for years. Like, what's going on with the highway and the infrastructure in Toronto? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would love to see more representation on the Mississauga, just on our side in terms of mass camps, and feeling like we get to be a part of that too. It almost feels like we always have to go somewhere else so that we can partake in it, right?
Bonnie Crumby, are you hearing this young lady, what she's saying?
Yeah, it just always feels like we have to go somewhere else to partake in it. And I remember the other day I was talking to you and you said that you're doing some work outside of Freedom Mass Band, but still in terms of carnival arts. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've been doing?
What I've done, started, was we've got into the public school. So I started at one in Brampton called Eastbourne Public School. Eastbourne Public School with the ABC group. And what we did was we got materials and they made headbands and collars. So they did it over a series of 2 weeks. And then on the third week, because they had to make everything dry because they don't use hot glue, right?
Okay.
They're using white glue because it's kids, right?
Yeah.
So they waited for everything to dry, and then the following week they paraded around the school.
Oh, that's so cute.
Right. And so while I was in there, I was playing music of the Caribbean. Like I played some Bob Marley for them and explained to them that, every island celebrates emancipation differently.
Yes.
And Jamaica isn't carnival. Like, I'm never going to say Jamaica owns carnival. We have one, but that's not that we can 100% say was inspired from Trinidad. But what's ours is our reggae music. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, Beres Hammond, Dennis Brown, their lyrics and their songs was all about freedom and emancipating yourself and thinking about what the oppressor is doing and how they're tricking you, right? Bella de la Fontaine, I can never say his name properly, but that Deo guy. We played his song and one of the kids knew the song and he was singing it, right? So cute. And I was saying, like, do you know that there was a message in the song? He was tricking his slave masters and the producers and whatever, because he was still, he was an entertainer, but he was also still very much under a lot of rules back then, right? He made this song and they didn't know that he was saying, like, yo, you need to pay us. You're like, daylight come, we've done the work. Daylight come, we'll want to get paid. Right? So I was just like, but he couldn't say it like that, obviously, because he can't afford to be ostracized, right? But he did it in a spicy song type way, in our words, the way we talk. So we knew what was up while they didn't get it, right? So I said to them, I'm like, Trinidadians, mass was their thing. This is how they did it. This is how they celebrated. We had our Junkanoo was started in Jamaica, and ours, it wasn't like mass. Junkanoo's like very scary. We had like these individual characters, and I don't know how they wore those costumes because they were so hot, but they wear them. They still do Junkanoo, but not like how they do it in Bahamas, right? Bahamas owned Junkanoo at this point. Yeah, right? But it's interesting how every island is inspired by another island. But I said, I feel like a little piece of all of the islands is in Toronto.
And that's the beauty. It's like the whole world is right here.
Yes. And so that was why for me it was important to bring it and stamp it Jamaican. Like to just say I'm a mass band doesn't bring any value to it, and it doesn't do it justice. It's important for people to understand. I want to be able to sing out our gospel songs. I want us to be able to show that pride. Like, I was in tears last year when we were playing Bob Marley, and I could see the people on the other side of the fence waving their flags and winding up themselves and stuff. And I was like, yes, nice. That is what it was all about. That's what it was all about.
Yeah, everything that I'm sure you went through trying to figure out how to navigate the first,
and then that damn generator being silly the moments before that. But I was just like, you know what? It was all worth it just to see that.
And that's how I feel too, is like, sometimes people will commend me like, oh, I saw you on this and that and you're doing such a great job with like being on TV and stuff, and I'm like, that's cool, but the things that make the biggest impact on me is when people reach out to me and say, hey, like, thanks for what you're doing. You're putting the representation, and you're representing us so well in the public eye and in spaces that we've never been before, and that is what means a lot to me.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
and you're doing it very classy, which I really like, because I've had issues with it in the past where I just feel like carnival is too hyper-sexualized of women, and the men that are doing this do not think about the consequences it holds for women. Yeah. Right? One would say to me, like my daughter's like, oh, mommy, you're a powerful woman. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. But she's like, no, mom, like, you're the boss. Like, you're a powerful woman. Like, people listen to you. And I'm like, oh, it's just my job title, Mom. Don't worry about it. She's like, no, mom, like, seriously. And I've never thought about it until more recently when an MP brought it to my attention. She's just like, little girls look up to you. Other female band leaders look up to you and say, hey, I can do it. You know, she did it and I can do it.
Like people who want to do it.
Who want to do it, or who are afraid to get into spaces that are mostly dominated by men. And they're like, and she's doing it, but she's not showing boobs and you know, like being like, and I'm like, you don't, that has never, like I say to people, you know, like I'm a registered nurse by background. That is not how I got to becoming a registered nurse. Was shaking my booty and wearing the least amount of clothes possible, right? And I wouldn't have had my leadership roles if they could search my name and find pictures like that, right? Because organizations are also very concerned about the image of their business, right? So yeah, great. We do carnival and we do wear bras and panties and whatever. And it's like a bathing suit mostly. So people are okay with that. But there's a fine line between the bathing suits and now what's starting to look like stripper gear. And some of the costumes look like you make one wrong move and your pom-pom draws dropping out of it. And what they're failing to understand is that you've got almost 2 million people down on Lakeshore. Yeah. Right? And we're walking down the street. And there are some people who at any other time would never try some shit, try it that day.
Like weirdos?
Weirdos, maybe not weirdos, whatever. Guys who are a little bit more shyer, but feeling like they're feeling a little bit more freer so they can grab a boob, grab an ass. Like I've encountered, I've experienced. That's why I always wear a backpack and I'm never in the thick. I'm always extended because I'm like, when you're out like this and people see that there's witnesses to things, they're less likely to try things, right? And they don't want to get in the way of you in your backpack, right? But you see, when you're in the thick of things with a collar, they'll grab your boob, they'll grab your, like, I've been through that. And I'm just like, I've had to elbow people, step on people, turn around, box a couple man in their face over the years. And I'm just like, that's not why I'm here. Like, what do you think? What do you feel like, right? And I mean, I've been a fighter as a kid. I know how to fight if I have to, right? But I don't want to be there feeling like that's what I have to do.
Because it's supposed to be your time to free up and enjoy yourself.
Right. And I really just want to dance and have a good time. And unfortunately, some of the clothing sends a different message. And that hasn't changed, right? Like people don't think, oh, like there are men who still think, oh, she dresses like that, she wants it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, she must be a hoe because she dresses like that. That narrative hasn't changed. Right. And then you, a young woman who hasn't even established your career or your permanent source of income and whatever, you're out being plastered out here, being hyper-sexualized, and then you're ready to do these things. It's not nice for someone to stop you when you're on your way to do things because of something like a picture of something that you did 10 years ago. And it's unfortunate that young people right now don't understand that, you know, and then again, it comes back to the loss of culture. Our culture is dying because nobody wants to share it, right? And if we still had elders that were sharing with the young people, you have the elders like, put on clothes and don't go on road like that. He's a young lady, right? Like that's what I heard when I played Mass in Jamaica. They do it on a Sunday. God forbid they do it on a Sunday. So when I came out on the road in my costume that I full covered option, come in, I really go naked, right? The man that was going to church with his Bible in his hand decides that he want come send 2 gospel preaching on me, you know. So he's like, oh, you know, he's preaching to me. And I'm like, so I took his like a prayer. I want you to pray with me. So I prayed with him. And then he's like, he's like, I got to pray for you. I said, Papa, I'm fine, you know, in God's name, I'm going to walk the road and play bass, right? And, you know, because for him, too much skin. Yeah. Right? It's too much skin and this is not God. And I even thought in my head, like, why are we doing this on Sunday, knowing how Christian Jamaica is? Like, why are we doing this on a Sunday? Maybe we should have done this on a Saturday where people would be less offended. Because
this was like in the newer Jamaica Carnival year?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this was like before COVID. The last time I played was in 2019. So that happened in 2019 and that was before the pandemic. So yeah, and the man, because it's Sunday. So when I'm coming out of the condo in my stuff, he's coming out going to church, fully dressed up in a suit with his Bible in his hand. And he was great. Come, young lady, I want you to pray with me. You know, and I don't cuss elders. And I was like, sir, you know, so I prayed with him, and, you know, and he's like, I want you to walk with her and show her that she doesn't need to carry herself like this as a young, beautiful young lady. She's a queen. And I was like, and I was listening to him, and I was like, and then I'm like, amen. Because if I didn't shut it short down, he would have gone on all day and make me miss the march. All right. And then he's like, you don't need to do this. And I'm like, Dads, it's all right. You know, we're just freeing up a little bit. You know, we're still covered, you know.
And that, well, one of the things that I would love to see is more traditional aspects of Carnival being incorporated here, and maybe in Jamaica Carnival too, because it's a newer one, so it's probably a little bit more of a sexy kind of thing.
And it's very Trinidad inspired. Everything comes out of Trinidad. Yeah,
Okay,
their
yeah.
whole designs and everything comes out of Trinidad, and they send their production to China. And then when they don't get their stuff in time, they get burned up on social media. So
Oh no.
yeah.
Yeah, honestly, one of the worst things is when you go away somewhere to play mass and the
Mm-hmm.
costume is not what you expected or it's
Mm-hmm.
not ready and you're like, "Hello, the
Mm-hmm.
parade day is tomorrow. Why am I in the mass
Mm-hmm.
camp at night fighting up with you
And
guys?"
you paid so much money to go to a fete that you're missing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
all kinds of stuff. And this is what I was saying the other day too is like as much as, you know, the carnival arts and making mass is a creative thing, it's also very much a logistics business.
Yes, it is. 100%. It's 100. Like when people come last minute, you cannot come last minute. I had somebody arguing with me. Why can't you get a backpack? Because it's less than 30 days left to the road. That's why. She's like, but why not? That's time. It doesn't take 30 days to make a backpack. No, but we have other orders that we have to fulfill. And it literally takes us like 3 days to make a backpack. Like by the time you get it from the wire bender, then you gotta wrap it. Then you gotta attach a feather. Every feather that you place with hot glue takes like 5 minutes to set in the place where you want it. So by the time you do this around the backpack, it's like, what are you saying? It takes literally like 1 day with one person tied up to do a backpack. So no, like I cut my section leaders off, no more feathers, and it is what it is.
So what would you say to people who are thinking that they can get a costume maybe 2 weeks before or something? Like what should their expectations be when it comes to, yo, I want to get a last minute costume? Like what should be the cutoff date to try to get that last minute?
Well, to be honest, I say to people, don't even bother. Like to me, a month before is too late. If
Okay.
especially if you want the whole shit, like the whole caboodle,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
too late because again, there's logistic things. Sometimes things have to be ordered, right? Then there's time. Everybody who is in Carnival have jobs. Nobody does this full time, right? We have to be able to fund these businesses. We don't get unlimited funding sources from anywhere. So we fund businesses, we have homes, we have families, right? So we manage our time to be able to make mass and to be able to live outside of Carnival. So to be realistic, you don't want to be waiting that long, especially if you know that you're a size that isn't, people who are mediums and larges and a small, because you can just take in a medium, stand a really good chance of getting away with something last minute and it will just be body wear. But somebody who may be a double XL or triple XL, we can't just order them and have them sitting there, right? Because it costs us more to produce. It's more fabric. And then what do you do with it if somebody doesn't want it?
Okay.
Right? So my advice to you is as soon as you know you want something, go to the mass camp if you're unsure of the pictures. I always say to people, go first. Don't let pictures fool you. They're so over edited. Everything is over edited. Go and look at it. If you go to a band and you have a really good section leader, they'll let you touch it. Some of them are really nice. They'll even let you try it on in the bathroom. Right? Go and get a feel for what it is. I find section leaders can be worked with. So if you say, right now this is all I have, and next week I'll have this amount to add to it, they're good to work with you. You know what I'm saying? Don't be intimidated by 50% down payments. Go and see what you want and do it early.
Everything is negotiable.
Everything is negotiable because you know what? We appreciate you more too, right? Like I appreciate you more. My people who already registered from time, I'm already working on their stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I've been working on their stuff. Like I'm ready to package their things. It's the last minute people who are taking up my time right now. And then they come and I'm like, okay, we only have body wear. And then they're arguing. So there's more time and they're arguing. And I'm like, 30 days, less than a month is really last minute. Like I don't want to be consumed with that. And I want to, as a band leader, it's important for me to give you my masqueraders an experience.
So where can people find Freedom if they want to connect with you or find out more about how they can play mass with you?
So if you want to connect with Freedom Mass Band, we do have a webpage, www.freedommassband.ca. Then we also have Instagram, which is freedommassband.ca, TikTok, Freedom Mass Band, and Twitter, but I hardly use Twitter. There's too much social media. But Twitter and Facebook, it's all Freedom Mass Band. Right? And then the email is info@freedommassband.ca. And you can call, text, WhatsApp 289-233-3890. And that's how you can reach us.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was so
Thank
nice
you for
chatting with
having
you.
me. Thank you.